Hi, I'm Raquel, a truth seeker with a deep curiosity who lives to question overshared beliefs.
And I'm Kristina, an interdisciplinary artist who believes in elevating undershared stories.
And we've saved you a seat at the Bombshell Brunches table.
Join us. Today we have the great fortune of recording from Vancouver, BC, also known as the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Squamish, Stolo, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations, whose land and presence reaches back to time immemorial. We honour their long history of caring for the land on which we currently work, live, play, and reside on, and aim to uphold and uplift the voice and values of our host nations. We do a quick note on why we do land acknowledgements. Land acknowledgements have been an Indigenous tradition dating back centuries as a way to show respect for the land that we are on. Additionally, they give an opportunity to reflect on the impacts of colonialism, reminding us that we need to be accountable to the Indigenous peoples and to thank those who still live on and care for this land. Book club. Yes! This is our first book club.
We're really excited. We had a couple things for this season that were a bit different that we really, really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Book club was one, and then the reviews were the other. So we did a review of The Aura Ring, which I think dovetails into this one quite well, actually. A couple things.
So Raquel and I have always been the type of people that back up with research. Whether it's reading books, we're constantly wanting to talk about things that we have been sourcing from various sources. And I've been thinking a lot lately about how we have such an influx of social media, we have such an influx of information, misinformation, that sometimes the long form commitment of reading a book written by someone or people who have focused their energy on one subject matter, it's really important.
One subject matter, I think you're exactly right. And not only one subject matter, but they are writing a book for longevity. So what in marketing you would call like evergreen content, but it's to the next level. So when you author something online, there's always that piece in the back of your head that you're doing it for clicks, that you're doing it for a specific audience, that you're doing it, but it could be taken down at any time. When an author is writing a book, they're putting their name and their brand and hanging it on that hook for potentially eternity. I mean, we know of books that have made it through very, very many years. So, I think there's a lot of responsibility on the authors who are writing books. And so there's times for quick short form content, and there's times to really read something that might be the culmination of someone's entire lifetime, or close to a decade. A lot of authors are working on a book for close to a decade. Yeah. And all of that insight culminates into that book that we have the gift of reading.
Yeah. So long live books is what we're saying. I think also in the era of getting decision fatigue, and also the era of needing to move away from screens, I think physical books, I will admit I have a Kindle because I used to read it on the tube on the London Underground, and you cannot physically stand on the tube most days and hold a book with two hands. So a Kindle is really important. But I will say that it's really good for your sleep hygiene, going back to, health, wealth, and life design, to be able to read and switch off. And whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it is someone who is invested in such long form. And our responsibility, I think, as human beings, is to continually know how to digest across a variety of mediums. I think behaviorally, you probably have more to say than I do on this, but I think humans we really need to continue to do that, because that's what differentiates us from so many other species, from machines, is that the way we ingest information is really important. It allows us to critically think differently.
And to give us different lenses. I think that's always been my favorite thing about books, is you get to put on someone else's lens for a little bit of time, which is pretty cool if you think about it.
Yeah. So today we're going to put on the lens of the man who wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Robin.
And isn't it the 5 a.m. Club too?
And the 5 a.m. Club, correct.
Yeah.
I have not. I've been told to read that book so many times.
I haven't read it either.
No. I've been asleep till 7 a.m.
So we read The Wealth Money Can't Buy by Robin Sharma. I kept seeing this book. It was very serendipitous. I was going into bookstores quite a bit at this one period of time. And the cover kept drawing me in. It's like this circle, and we're all drawn to circles as humans, which is kind of funny. It's like the human eye, we're always drawn to a circle. And I just kept seeing it come up, and I was so intrigued by this title, The Wealth Money Can't Buy. I kept looking, and then out of nowhere, Spotify launched audiobooks, and the one that was recommended for me was The Wealth Money Can't Buy. And I was like,
did you say it out loud in front of your phone? Is that what happened?
Well, probably said it a lot of times. My phone is very intelligent.
No, $1 million. $1 million.
Serve it up.
Doesn't get me half an apartment these days.
So yes, so I started listening to it, and Kristina and I were going back and forth at the time and talking about the newest iteration of Bombshell Brunches.
Mm-hmm. And where we were at in our lives.
And I was like, Kristina, I think, you've got a lot on your plate, but I want to put one more thing on
Classic.
Let's see if you can later with this on your head. So we decided that we wanted to do this book for our first book club episode.
I also want to just have a slight interjection moment to everyone who has decided to tell people to read more books.
See, I already knew your view on this.
I just want to acknowledge and say that I acknowledge all of these people out there that are like me, where when someone says, oh my gosh, you are going to love this book, and then the anxiety just hits me at this really...
Well, it's like when you have overwhelm already.
I have such a long list of books. I don't want another book. I do want another book, but I can't do another book. So I now have a list of books to read, and then I put in brackets who recommended to me and what date, so that I can go. Yes, because I'm not keeping it in my brain. And then I turn around and go, thank you so much. That is so great. I will add it. And I physically take my phone out and add it in front of them, so they can also low-key see the whole list of everyone. I'm just going to go, I'm just going to put that. Here we go. Here, I'll put it here.
So I feel honored because you actually read this book right away.
Yeah, because you clearly have some kind of weird, you have something on my brain. This is the persuasive communications masters. I didn't want to be on this I didn't even know I was here. I did not say yes to this.
I am so honored.
Honored.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. Let me dig in. So Robin Sharma basically takes the reader through seven different forms of wealth that are not money. So I believe there's 8 in total, and 7 of those are not money. And encourages people to start chasing different forms of wealth that will bring you more joy and longevity into your life, which I think, and connection.
Yeah.
Which I thought was absolutely phenomenal, and what a cool way to look at the world.
I think it's also important to say that at this juncture, because a lot of our listeners are really hustling right now, and a lot of us are still in grind culture, and a lot of that is dictated by the fact that we're in a very ill-affordable city. It's really hard to work, and so many people who are next generation to us, they're looking at not being able to own their homes. They're looking at not being able to have the same kind of security. They're looking at shrinkflation and all of these really expensive things to be addressing, and the cost of college, and the cost of, the cost of gaining a prestigious career.
Yeah.
So I just want to also acknowledge that, having a reminder that finance is not the only thing that can build you happiness is really important. And as a career sustainability coach and mentor myself, as a champion of that, I think this book was really important to remind myself that I can't, they'll always say, you make this much money and you'll buy freedom. You make this much money and then you can relax. You make this much and you'll be happier. You won't. Your day is made up of finding ways to feel fulfilled in tiny ways throughout the day. Just waiting for one big lump sum is never gonna make you happy, especially in the creative fields, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think honestly in any field, quite truthfully. And I think there was a lot of grace in this book as well, reminding us, because I think sometimes people can have this high horse feeling of, and pride. Maybe it comes from a semblance of pride, where, I'm here in my career and maybe they're looking down upon other jobs or careers. And what I thought was really beautiful about this book was the celebration of how you do what you do. So he talked a lot about, doesn't matter if you're a gardener or a CEO, it's about how you're doing that job that brings you that form of wealth. So I thought that was incredible. I'll quickly go through the 8 forms of wealth and then we can kind of dig in a little bit. Yeah. So we had growth. So the daily habit of self-improvement.
Love that one.
Right? Of course you do.
Of course I do.
No surprise to any of our listeners if they've heard this before. Wellness, steadily optimize your health habit.
We both love that.
I mean, Aura Ring. So head over and listen to that episode.
Not sponsored. But.
Not sponsored. Nor is this book. But Robin Sharma, if you want to coach us, we are so happy.
We're so available. We have the wealth of time. That's not true.
We will create the wealth
of time.
Family, the happy family, happy life habit.
Oh my gosh. Which I have another book recommendation for you to put on your journal.
Okay. I love that. Craft, which I thought was amazing. The work as a platform of purpose habit. Money, so prosperity as fuel for freedom habit.
Yeah.
Community, you become your social network habit.
Oh,
and
one really hit
right?
So much.
Me too. And it was like just it to this day, like I read this book a few months ago and it still keeps coming up in reminders. I just wanted to put an asterisk here that can include books or podcasts, and other content. So even if you don't have a physical community around you, he talks about how you can build a community through authors and writers and podcasters and, things like that. So I thought that was a really cool thing, especially for people who might be remote.
I love the phrase, find the others.
Yeah.
I love that phrase because it's just so simple. And for different people, I know a lot of gamers working in creative tech, like so many people who find really deep connection through gaming.
Yes.
And I think it's very important. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Adventure, that's a big one for me. Joy comes from exploring, not possessing. Yes, we can get into that later, but that is a huge one for me. And anytime I feel off my track or not like myself, that's one of the things in my toolbox to come back to is to have an adventure. And service, which I mean,
we've so conflicted.
Talked about this so much, but life is short, so be helpful. Habit.
You know what? I do want to put a bookmark in that to speak to that. Because I think...
Well, you talk to it now.
Well, okay.
Now.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I will.
It's on your mind.
It's right there for me. I've been really, really struggling with how to feel okay with the term service. And I think
Yeah, you don't like that term.
I do not like that term. But what I realized is I love being in service of inanimate things. If it is not another human.
I just wanted like a pause there for crickets. Glenn, cue the crickets.
I love to be in service of industry, of community, of not things that are not necessarily one living person or other living
you want
people.
To be in service of community, but when you say
made of
inanimate objects, I'm thinking like the lamp.
I am in
servicing your lamp.
I am in service of lamp. I love lamp. No, I don't know. It's really interesting because I love the idea of helping a community and industry and being of service within that community and industry.
So it's like social impact.
I guess, yeah.
I feel like service, I feel like social impact or community service, which makes it sound like you've been to jail. Shouldn't
laugh at that, but no, I don't. I have not. Don't want to go.
I think that all fits under the umbrella.
I think it does, but I'm not sure why I get so small t triggered.
And it makes me laugh because you are such a person of service. Like, I mean, for all of those of you who don't know, Kristina, literally every time she does something that people ask about, like if they're asking her for tips about something or directions to something or names of something, she makes a PDF. Crickets again. And then she stores said PDF and she sends it out to... That is an act of service. That is a giant act of service.
I don't think that's an act of sense.
I'll just tell them verbally, and if they don't remember, I feel like that's their fault. That's on them, not me. Could have typed it in their phone.
I have often thought that, being in cultures and also being a woman, being mixed race, being of Asian descent, having people suggest in my life that I should be of service.
Oh, so it's almost like a subservient?
It's a subservient.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. And it's my dad always used to say this, like, you're the one that, I'm always the one that gets asked to take the notes. Or I'm not the secretary. Mm-hmm. But there's just a lot for me. And watching a lot of the women before me and the matriarchs of my family grow up and have full glass ceilings and be really of service to other people's vision and other people's dreams has been, I think that's why the word service is hard.
Okay, Robin Sharma, if you are listening,
we would like... That's the voice she used when she asked if I wanted to be in a podcast.
To change from service to impact.
I like to facilitate. I really like to facilitate.
But
when I am
I think service is more... I think impact. I think impact is a good one because facilitation, not everyone wants to be a facilitator, and you can still be of impact in small ways or big ways without necessarily facilitating.
Yeah, true.
I think you're very impactful. You impact a lot of people's lives.
Thank you.
In many ways.
Appreciate that. You impact one.
Yours?
Yeah, and then I have to go and help. Definitely. I have to go be of service to other people because of what you tell me to go and do. Okay, so let's get back to the forms because
yes. We don't have a lot of time, but okay, so growth. Talk to me.
Okay, so from a creative career perspective, I'm constantly helping people to figure out what I call the jungle gym of your career. So if you're in a creative thinking industry or anything that's slightly entrepreneurial, even if you're in management and you're needing to think creatively all the time, a daily self-improvement habit, to be reminded of that was really important, because often when you are building community, building new things, you can lose your own progression in service of your craft, in service of other things. And I think just committing every day a little bit, I used to call it the morning mindset routine, to little habits that continually, I think he says it in the book, like small habits done repeatedly over the course of time create excellence or create, your greatest version of yourself, or whatever their quote is. So daily self-improvement habits are really important for you to stay in check with actually who you are and where you want to be going.
So it's like protecting that time and space.
Protecting time, space, and self-progression outside of professional development.
I think that's really key.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And that's a big growth, to be perpetually evolving instead of so many people I meet who say they want to be a certain type of artist are really at the stage of doing it now because they said they wanted to 5 years ago. They haven't shifted gears.
Yes.
And so growth and commitment to growth and commitment to a daily self-improvement habit is you checking yourself every day to make sure that you still love the things that you love.
Yes. And I think even what you were saying, doing it outside of your career as well, it makes me think, of people, for example, who are looking for a romantic partner and, maybe if they've done some self-work and they're like, hey, my partner needs to tick these boxes because I've, had this in the past and didn't work out or didn't want it. I think, it's really important to become the person that you would want to be with.
Yeah. Great. That's
so that goes to like another piece of that, whether it's relational or career driven or, in your form of excellence, whatever it is that your passion is, growth as a person. And I think there's different seasons for different growth. Some seasons you may want to go full in on career and that's your career season. Other seasons, becoming a mom for me was a big growth. It was a huge time of growth and change. And so I had to go down the becoming a mom and how I show up in my relationship season. That was a lot of change for me. How do you show up as a partner now that you're also a mom? There's someone who needs you 24/7. And same for them. So I think, different seasons will call for different change different growth. But yeah, I love that.
Wellness was the next one, right?
Yes. Yes.
We talk about wellness.
I feel like we talk about it a lot. We probably don't need to dig too much into this. And I feel like this is probably something that most people already know about. But what I will say about wellness and about the book specifically and how he approaches wellness is, again, coming down to those habits, those daily habits for longevity. So he's not talking about having, the perfect body type, although, cherry on top, but he's really talking about being the best version of yourself physically so that you can live as long as you possibly can, as comfortably as you can, with the most joy and impact that you can. So
it's so easy to forget that, isn't it? When you're, I heard this from somewhere the other day where so many people are so smart that they've lost their bodies. And
interesting.
Yeah, you've got such a sharp brain that you've lost your body. And I found that as an actor. I found that my coach and we were going through a scene I was prepping to be on set a few weeks ago, and I was feeling so out of touch because I was so in my mind about choices and things that I wanted to do with this character that I forgot to be in my whole body. And I think we talk about wellness in such a mindful way, and sometimes we have to remind ourselves to take a step back and actually just be in our bodies.
Yeah, I agree.
And those habits really solidify that. So I think there was a lot of through lines on slow and steady habit forming, keep creating.
Yes, that's definitely his whole, I would say if there's a thread through the whole book, it's about doing something daily, not doing something, gung-ho for 2 weeks and then not doing it again. It's all about those steady habitual changes. The next one is family. So happy family, happy life habit, which I thought was really amazing. And one of the things he talks about is being grateful for your people, for your family, and practicing gratefulness. So gratitude is obviously a practice a lot of people by now have probably either partook in or have read about or have been intrigued about. But he really talks about the importance of practicing gratefulness, which is different than just being grateful, because it's active. So it's not a passive thing. It's not just, I'm spending time with them to spend time with them. It's actually, actively thinking about your mom every day and a memory or a thing that she does that's so incredible so that you can keep that love alive, or your partner or your sibling or, grandparent, whoever it is.
Yeah. I found that at this stage, at this point in the book, I was realizing that so many things were not things I'd never heard. They were things I needed to hear again.
Yes.
And and it was, I will say the one other side of this is I did not like being spoken to like a friend.
Yeah, interesting.
It's some people might enjoy this where he does have this kind of language where he's like, oh, I'm just going out for a walk now with my dog that I don't know and I don't particularly care about, like, because I don't know this dog. But there's a lot of looping into like, hey friend, hey, you know, it's been really nice to walk with you on this journey. And so I will put that on the other side. I like to, you know, still be two-sided about certain things. And I didn't like that. I was like, no, I'm reading an educational book here. Leave me with your wisdom, but don't call me your friend.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I had the opposite. And I loved that he pulled me in because he writes from different locations and he'll talk about it. So it'll be like, today I'm in this, you know, my favorite pasta restaurant in Italy, or today I'm in, you know, South Africa or whatever. And he's very, very visual. So he really describes exactly like if there's a slight wind blowing, what the colors are, what is his dog doing at that exact moment. And I felt so there with him and so present that it made me really drop my walls in a way that I probably wouldn't have if he didn't.
I like the and I think that's where it's personal preference.
Yeah,
because I hit a point where I was like, no, I like that you're in Italy, great, love that life, love that journey for you, but it's not mine. And so I was like, but I hear what you're saying. It's a personal preference.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Craft, which is not like crafting, not taking out like kid scissors and
work as a platform for purpose. That's a really, really interesting statement, especially because we're in the business of business right now. And so many people, especially at this juncture of our lives, someone said it to me the other day, you know, that, you know, 40 to 55, you're like in your biggest earning years. That's a 15-year block of like serious make hay, especially for a lot of people who are in kind of our generation, I think, because there's a lot more, for some people, a lot more availability. For others, a lot more competition. But, you know, you're in this kind of like trying to get the nest egg, trying to get all of this money together. And I think I have a bit of a long-standing overwork. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I don't know if anyone knows this about me. I think I hide really well.
Don't think you're a workaholic, actually. I think that you are a time optimist.
Oh my God.
I think you're a time
I'm going to start saying that now.
Kristina does love to be off. Like, you love a good spa day.
Lolling is my
right? Like, she loves, you know, I feel like a true workaholic, they're the people who like are sitting there fidgeting, like they can't handle a day off. They want to go back to work. They don't know who they are without it. I feel like you know who you are.
Exactly who I am.
You would happily do your own thing. Yeah. You would make your music. Like, you would just do, like, I feel like, yes.
You're right.
Catnap all day.
Right.
But, you know, you want to do a lot of things. You have big ideas. You have big dreams. And you are a bit of a time optimist. You're very quick, but you forget about burnout.
It's true. And it keeps coming to get me like a sack of potatoes. But I think this is part for, you know, we've done surveys with our readers, listeners, audience members, friends, people, community. Insert label here. But the point is, I think a lot of people are in this, you know, we're looking for a purposeful work. We're not looking for work that we can trade time for money anymore. And I think that's a lot of the people who are listening right now is, how do we find ways to remind ourselves as we are going for a purposeful existence, as we are going for something that we need. Yes, we do need to get financial remuneration for, often in an ideal way, but it needs to feel impactful. And if it's going, and going back to the career pathway thing, I say to certain people who I speak to, they say, I want to work in the music industry and this is what I want to be doing. And I'm like, okay, how can you get paid either the most amount for doing the least amount of work so that you can go away and be as creative as you want to be, if that's what you really want? Or how do you go away and find a job that you can hone a craft that you love and get paid to do it? How do you structure your income earning portfolio in such a way that you can do that? So some people, I will say, go and get your restaurant job or a Whole Foods job, or like some job where at the end of the day you clock off so that you have absolutely no responsibility afterwards, because then you are time rich. I chose to go into creative tech and creative industries on the other side, producing and events and that sort of thing. But it doesn't mean that I'm time rich. It means that my skill set, if I want to release my own music, if I want connections in the industry, I have all of that. So whatever your purpose is, there are multiple ways to fortify it. And I think that's a really interesting reminder in this book, is to treat your work like that, because if you don't, then you're just stuck with trading time for money, which is not a sustainable or motivating way to be.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of it is really honing your craft and understanding that pretty much no matter what you're doing, sorry, Kristina, it's of service to other people. It is a service to other people. So there's a purpose behind what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're bagging groceries or if you are creating the Oura Ring, or if you're doing research, or what have you. Everything that you're doing it for someone else. That is the trade of money and prosperity. And so understanding that and really, I think, honoring the crafts that you've chosen and the work that you're doing is the other piece of that puzzle, and giving it the breathing room that it deserves. And if you treat your craft that way, if you nurture it and if you grow it that way, it will prosper for you, because you will become the best at your craft.
Yeah. I think I'm at that junction now. It's where do we put where do I put my attention? Where do I put my craft?
You and me both.
Yeah. Which then comes to money. Money, which is always, the kind of, it's what I know I grew up feeling was an ultimate attainment, right? Having enough money, having financial freedom.
Interesting.
We talk about it a lot. I've always been afraid that I'm not going to have enough money to get by. And so we've talked to guests before who have highlighted that they've grown up in a world of extreme insecurity, financial insecurity, and that's a real thing. And I also have had multiple conversations with people in coaching sessions about how to renegotiate their own ideas towards money, because some people, especially in the music industry, if you're not a starving artist, then you're not authentic. If you love money, then you're a sellout. If you
We're going to talk about this later with another guest today, but also that piece of like for-profit, not for profit. Can for-profit companies do good in the world? Absolutely. But there's this idea, through these systems that have come into place for the last hundreds of years, that make us believe if it's for profit, it's not for people.
Yes. And I think that's a really nuanced conversation, but important. But for the purposes of time, I think the book really reminds you that prosperity
as fuel for freedom.
Is fuel for freedom. And I think that's such a great way of putting it. So really good reminder in there.
Community, I don't feel like we need to go too much into that. And we kind of touched on it earlier, but the piece from that really stuck out to me was he talks about, and I don't want to word it wrongly, but basically creating your dead board of directors. Yeah. And I was like, it's so twisted and I love it. Very dark, very me. So, what he dives into there is going back to the greats. And we are in such a privileged position, especially in North America, where even if you don't have affluence, we have access to libraries, we have access to internet, we have access to computers, whether it's through schools or through libraries or through work programs, and we can gain access to these amazing, incredible minds who have written books, who have, done podcasts, who have done these things, and we can return to those. So if you find some that are values aligned, who have done really incredible things in the world and written books about them, you can return to that when you have different junctures in life where you need advice. And, I think it's really important that you don't get advice from people who are not living the life you want to live. And if you don't have those people in your life and you're alone, or, maybe you're not alone, but just not like-minded, then you have this kind of access, which I thought was really, really cool.
I think, having access to people beyond time and beyond financial ability is really important.
Yeah.
And also building community. We've done that a lot with our in-person brunches, but to be the change you want to see, you have to be around, I think, a lot of the time, the people that inspire you the most to be your best version.
And if you want to come to brunch, www.bombshellbrunches.com, you can sign up for our newsletter there. And then we'll let you know when the next brunch pops up. We do them about once a month. But the next one was adventure. So joy comes from exploring, not possessing. That was a huge, huge learning experience for me. I think it's kind of how I think anyways. But when I moved to Europe, I could only bring 2 or 3 suitcases, and they were like, the ones that fit into each other. So it was like one big one, but then like one medium and like one tiny carry-on. So everything, including my school books, including my computers, including any furniture I wanted to bring, including clothes, all had to fit into that. And then I did 2 years abroad between that and Africa. And so it really made me realize how little possessions actually mattered. And, especially when I got into really crazy busy times with work and school and bombshells, what kept me sane was having little mini adventures. Like I realized very quickly that I needed something to be different. I needed something out of the routine, out of the norm, something that's sparkly and awe-inspiring. So whether that meant going to a new museum once a week, or the zoo, or just taking a walk in a new area, that was like of utmost importance to keep me excited about everything we were working on.
And we can get stuck on rails so easily. I think
and it stunts creativity.
It does. Highly recommend getting out and adventuring.
And
so we talked about service.
You started with service, so that's it. That's it.
Would you recommend the book?
I thought it was absolutely incredible. Obviously, I would recommend the book because I made you read it. So I feel like that's an unfair question. But how about you?
I would recommend it. I would say that it's one of those books you can kind of skim. You can pick up and put down. You can read it depending on your reading pace. I don't know how many pages it is, but it probably took me about 2 weeks. And I read quite often. I'd read a chapter a day, but they're quite short chapters, very accessible in my opinion, concepts, but also really lovely, comforting reminders of living a richer life. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you go and have a read or have a listen if you're in
a window,
and let us know what you think. Send us a note on all the socials and let us know what you thought of the book.
I think maybe we'll put a poll up on Spotify. So if you are listening on Spotify, let us know. Let us know if you read it. Let us know what you thought about it. And then let us know what you think about our first book club episode.
Bye. Thanks for showing up, Bombshells. We'd like to thank our brilliant media and production team for their incredible work on each episode. We look so shiny because of them. As for you, my darlings, head to our website, bombshellbrunches.com, to sign up to the mailing list for future events and deals, connect with us on socials, dig into resources, and leave us little love notes. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous. Bye.
Bye.
Podcast.